It's good to see you guys so passionate about the craft and what you guys want to do in the learning and stuff. We got a lot of exciting things coming up in Palm Beach, which I think some of you guys have kind of heard, some of you guys got a taste of. First thing we're going to do, did everyone sign in?
Yes.
Perfect. Now next, do me a favor. Everyone pull out your phones, if you don't mind checking in to Due South Brewery with the hashtag USBG Palm Beach. So we just get some more of that social media going, that'd be awesome. Any pictures you guys take of this, just hashtag USBG Palm Beach. What we're going to do now is, after this, since you got your email address, we're going to send you a quick 10-minute survey on Friday, just to get some thoughts on you guys. One of the questions, which we kind of asked already, is what's the best day of the week to meet with you guys? A lot of you guys said Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Mondays and Wednesdays seem to be the best day. Feel free to answer. There's going to be, like I said, 10 different questions, all about what do you want to get out of this. We don't just want to stand up here and preach what we think you want to learn. We want to give you the tools and the education, bring the products that you want to learn about. So that's part of what this survey is about. On top of that, you guys already know we're going to meet once a month and do an educational component seminar like this. These events, the once a month seminars, you're more than welcome to bring whoever you want. Let's get more of these bartenders involved. You want to bring someone who's going to might be interested. These are free events to the public. We're going to do the same thing, always do an introduction about the USBG so they can kind of learn what it's all about. We're going to bring on the sponsor, the brand. They're going to talk about their brand, get you educated on it, maybe some cocktails with it for you to taste, and then afterwards we're going to do a learning component. Always something different. This one's all about beer, which, how fucking cool is this? A brewery in Boynton.
Awesome. Yeah.
I didn't even know about this place. How many of you guys do you know about this?
I did.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. First time here was maybe a little over a month ago, and we're just blown away. Like, this is awesome. Charles brought it up, like, dude, let's do this. Let's have a thing here. And then after that, after we learn about how beer and the process is made here, Charles is going to come on and teach us all about beer cocktails. It's an exciting trend going on where it's how refreshing is a beer? Like, you have that beer, it's cold. Oh my God, it's so great. It's easy. Every bartender has it. They can't fuck it up. But what's even more refreshing is an awesomely made beer cocktail. And Charles is going to go into that later. The next event is going to be a little closer for you guys, West Palm. It's going to be in September. Right, we're in August, September. Let me look at the date real quick. September 18th. This one's going to be on a Wednesday again, and the reason why is because of the venue for this one. It's going to be actually at Off the Hookah in Palm Beach. What? Yeah. You're going to actually enjoy some free sushi. You're going to learn about Fernet Branca. And then the mixology, the component of this one, the learning component, is all about molecular mixology. Some really cool, fun stuff we're doing. And you guys might have heard something about it. It was a buzzword a couple years ago. But now you actually get to see and actually learn some easy techniques you can do behind your bar that won't slow down service. And you can make some hell of good fucking cocktails that your guests got to come back and get from you to help you make more money. So that's next month. On top of that, after that, for that presentation in September, in October, we're going to do a mixology competition for members only. So it's only you Palm Beach members only that are allowed to do this competition. So far, I think there's only 23 members so far. So the odds are good that you guys will do pretty well. And once you get the taste of Fernet, hopefully the month afterwards you can put some good stuff together. And the cool thing is, like, I honestly, and I told the Fernet people this, I hate Fernet. Convince me.
What?
Yeah, convince me. I'll say this, I was convinced. They got some amazing fucking products, and my favorite one was the Branca Menta, which is basically Fernet, but with mint and sugar. It's so freaking, like, I love Grand Marnier, I sip on Grand Marnier religiously, but sipping on that was just amazing. But again, you'll taste all that in September, and some other good stuff coming up. Another thing we talked about is, remember you guys talked about doing the happy hours and things like that? We finally got that 99% ironed out. It's going to be on Mondays, since Mondays seem to be good for everybody. It's going to be in West Palm Beach. I'm not going to tell you where, but it's going to be on Clematis. And it's going to be every Monday. And I think the first 2 months are already planned out, where it's going to be a different sponsor for 2 hours. And it's just free happy hour for USBG members. So it's going to be some good stuff. That is... We'll let you bring one guest for that one.
What day is that?
It's going to be on Monday starting in September.
Awesome.
Starting?
Yeah. It's all free cocktails for 2 hours for USBG members and one guest. It's either going to be 5 to 7, 6 to 8, or we're toying with the idea because of football coming up, maybe doing 8 to 10. What would work out best for you guys?
8 to 10 is good.
Any chapter. So, I mean, that's just some of the good stuff coming up. Charles is planning something with a brand coming up for Peanut Island, maybe. We're kind of toying with the idea of that.
With the chicken car?
Yep.
Yeah, we're like maybe some Jameson. I don't know. We got the Daniel Allen, the Pernod Ricard, brand manager over here in the corner.
Hey, hey!
Is anyone a fan of Jameson at all? I mean,
Picklebacks.
the craft pickleback might be coming in soon. Yeah, we didn't mind. That's why.
So there's a lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline. The first part is actually, like I said, on Friday. We're going to send out the survey. Feel free to answer it honestly, and from that is where we're going to direct it. But there's a lot of good stuff in the future. From the Fernet competition in September, I don't know if you guys know anything about the coins, USBG coins. Basically, it's a little metal coin that you get as members, and you keep it on you. And say Scott and I go to a bar, and we're hanging out, and we order, I'm at the bar, order some drinks. Scott walks up, throws his challenge coin down. If I don't have my USBG challenge coin, I have to buy him a drink. If I happen to have mine down and throw it back down, he's got to buy me a drink. So it's fun little things like that, which is coming up in the future. And I know a lot of people had questions about the insurance. I know you, Jelly, you looked at it pretty well. Do you want to give everyone a quick, brief description on it?
Well, in retrospect to what's on the market right now and what you get for your money, the deductible, there's no deductible, which that ends up being what you're going to decide between insurance. Most insurances give you $1,000 to $500 deductible, and with USBG it doesn't. It's like $75 a month, which is like the lowest one. It was kind of cheap,
so less than $20 a week.
Something like that. And it was like full coverage for like hospital and ambulance. Like it was, and if you compared it to Blue Cross Blue Shield, all the ones that they have in Florida, it was a good deal. I thought it was good.
Nice.
Check into it.
And then how'd you find the information for that?
I went on the website, and right there on the website, it has insurance. You look at it, it has a PDF.
USBG.org?
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for me on the spot.
Hey, you're welcome. And then another fun event coming up in October. This is our third year doing it. It's called Save the Melons. And I don't know if you guys know anything about it, but October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I kind of think you see where this is going. It's actually a charity event we do at Rachel's Steakhouse. And we're going to have free cocktails for USBG members. Steakhouse? Gentlemen's Club, I'm sorry. That's a fun event, and the theme this year is military. So they're going to have a Navy branch, an Air Force branch, an Army branch, and a Marine branch. And from those different branches, we have different cocktails representing those. And that's what we're doing that. So that's going to be a fun time also. That's like I said, a whole bunch of stuff coming in the future. There's a whole bunch more, but I don't want to overload you guys right now. Right now, we're here about Due South Brewery. I'm going to bring on Mike. Mike's one of the main men here. He makes the beer, he does all the stuff, and he makes us smile. So with further ado, Mike.
Hi everybody, welcome to Due South Brewing. My name's Mike. I'm our brewery operations manager here at the brewery. I wanted to give you guys a little tour. Do you mind standing up and walking with us? You bring your beverages of choice with you.
Absolutely will.
I want to show you guys how our beer is made. This is seriously going to hinder my hand motions, but it's all right. You guys feel free to come closer and hang out. I'm cool with that. Just so you know, if you're ever out and about, if your bar carries our beer, thank you, first and foremost. I want you to know that our beers are only made right here in this facility. We don't have any other facilities. We don't contract brew out any of our beers through other breweries. So anytime you see our beer out and about in a bar or restaurant around South Florida, Treasure Coast, even Brevard and Volusia counties now, it is a locally made handcrafted ale that's made right here in Boynton Beach. I'm going to put this one down for a little bit. We start our day right over in the corner of the building right over here. The blue device that you see on the floor is our mill that we use to mill our malted barley or grains, whatever you prefer. Of course, one of the 4 main ingredients in making beer is malted barley, along with hops, water, and yeast. And this beginning process of making beer is actually very similar to how whiskeys are made, because grains are involved in that process. What we do is we fill up a giant sack with all of the grains that we're going to use. We lift it up with our forklift, and then we hold it up above the mill itself. We then allow the grains to come down into the mill. The bag unties from the bottom, and we crack the grains, get all the starches exposed out of them that we're going to want from them. And then there's a PVC pipe that's attached to the mill that runs all the way up here. There's an auger arm inside of that PVC pipe that pulls the grains up to the auger itself that's hanging above the ceiling there. Typically there's another arm attached to that will guide the grains down into this vessel right here. That's called our mash tun. As the grains are coming into the mash tun, they're being hydrated by hot water, usually between 170 to 180 degrees. We also have automated rakes on the inside of the mash tun to stir the grains around, make sure they're all getting hydrated properly. Up until about 2.5 months ago, we didn't have the automated rakes in there. This is what we use to stir in. There's that canoe paddle right there. Hell of a workout when you're dealing with probably 1,000 pounds of grain at a time. But no one's complaining about losing a little bit of a workout right now. Once we get all the grains in there and we get them nice and hydrated, we let them sit for about 45 minutes. Over this time, conversion is going to take place where the starches are converted into sugars, and sugar is what the yeast needs in order to make alcohol. If we didn't have the stirring that occurred, we would have a lot of dry bits of grain that aren't being properly hydrated, aren't being properly converted, so we won't have enough sugars for the yeast to eat, and the chances of hitting your target ABV, alcohol by volume, would go down considerably by then. I know you guys know what ABV means. I just do the tours here, and that's just part of my spiel. After 45 minutes, we begin a process that's called Vorlaughing. The bottom of the tun has a false bottom on it. It allows liquid and small bits of particulate to run through it. And what we'll start doing is circulating the wort, as we call right now. It's not beer yet because it's not fermented, so we call it wort, W-O-R-T, just sugary water right now. We'll circulate it out through the bottom of the tun, through the pipework, into this that is called a grant. This grant will then have the liquid pulled back with a pump back up the pipework to the top, and it will rain the wort down on top of the bed of grains. What we're doing here is taking all the small bits of grain that are left on the bottom. This grant's going to capture a lot of it in there. Some that will get through will just get displaced back on the top of the bed of grains. We're making sure that all of that's not on the bottom for when we transfer out, because we don't want to take a really cloudy, particulate-filled wort with us when we transfer. There's a sight glass there, also a sight glass there, so that we can see as we clear up. Once we have a clear product, we'll then begin transferring our wort over from the mash tun over to the kettle right over here. Of course, once we have all of our wort over here, we're going to still have a bed of grains sitting in the mash tun. So we open up that manway door that you see right there. We put some trash cans underneath there, hit our rakes, collect up all those grains that we then donate to local farmers, a cattle farmer in Delray Beach and a chicken farmer here in Boynton. It's waste to us, so instead of throwing it out, we donate it to people who can really use it, and they get to have some feed for their animals, save some money themselves. We do a little bartering ourselves and get some stuff in exchange for the grains, but it's really just small businesses helping out small businesses, and to us, we wouldn't have it any other way here. Once we're into the kettle, we're going to bring our wort up to a boil. Once it's at a boil, we'll keep it there for 75 minutes, and during this time is where we'll start adding hops to the recipe. Depending on the types of hops that you use and when you put the hops into the boil, we'll impart something different on the final product. Rule of thumb normally is that the more early on in the process that you add hops will contribute towards bitterness, more in the middle for flavor, and towards the end for aroma. You're not just limited to only hops being put into the kettle. You can add a lot of other things, adjuncts and such. For example, our honey vanilla wheat we have on tap here, we use about 80 pounds of local honey. Our southern saison, we use a number of spices. You can add fruits, coffees, chocolates. The options are pretty limitless, but hops are the primary thing that's going to be put in during that time. Okay. After 75 minutes is up, we will then begin the process of bringing our wort over to one of our fermenters. So we'll cut the heat on the kettle. Now, we don't want to bring the wort over in a near boiling temperature because that's going to kill the yeast really quickly. So what we do is we transfer the wort out of the kettle and into this area that's right underneath the steps. This is called a heat exchanger. We'll run cold water through there to create a very cool environment and then circulate the wort through it. So as it's passing through there, it's rapidly coming down in temperature, usually from near boiling to about 70 degrees. At that point in time, we will transfer out through here using a hose to one of our 6 fermenters that we have. We have 3 15-barrel fermenters, 2 30s, and a 60 right here. Soon to be another 60 if you saw it sitting on its side over there. 15 barrels is a little less than 500 gallons, so 30 barrels is a little less than 1,000, and 60 a little less than 2,000. We'll transfer in through the bottom to minimize any splashing around and any foam being built up. At the same time, we'll impart our yeast onto the product. We just hook up a T-valve onto there so we can push the wort in one way and the yeast in another, so they'll go in together and don't have to worry about any possible exposure to oxygen with the yeast by just like dumping it into the manway door there. Once we fill this up, we will lock things down, bring the temperature to about 68 degrees, and we'll let fermentation start taking place. And it usually starts rather quickly, within 12 hours, and that's when the yeast eats all those sugars that we created and makes alcohol. A byproduct of this process is a large amount of CO2 being created during this time, and we want that CO2 to get out of there because we don't want one of our fermenters to blow up. So we have these blow-off arms on each one of the tanks. It allows the CO2 to escape, and we have a bucket of sanitized water underneath so nothing can go back in and possibly infect our product. And some of these you're going to see a lot of bubbling occurring, and that's a sign of a strong fermentation going on, so more CO2 being created. It takes about 12 to 14 days to ferment out a batch of our ales here. We do mostly ales. There's really only 2 different kinds of beers in the world, ales and lagers. And the differences are the temperature at which they ferment and also the time at which they ferment. Ales ferment around that 70-degree range for about 2 weeks, while lagers ferment at about a 50 to 55-degree range for about 6 weeks. So you won't see a lot of small breweries doing lagers straight up from the beginning because it's really cost effective. Our temperature is controlled by glycol that you see the white lines above head, runs into a double jacket system on the inside of each one of the fermenters to keep them nice and cold, and it works a lot like your air conditioning. We set a temperature we don't want the vessel to go over. Once it hits that, kicks on the glycol to keep it cool. Of course, in South Florida, you know that's going on a lot. And also, in the amount of time, like I said, 6 weeks, we can turn over 3 ales in a fermenter in the time that it takes 1 lager to ferment. Not to say that we don't do lagers. We've done a couple, and we actually have one going right here. This is our Oktoberfest Marzen lager that's going on right now and should be ready probably the end of September. Yeah.
During that fermentation process, what sort of variance does the glycol system keep within the temperature of the brew?
I don't know exactly, but I'd like to think within a degree. The LED panel that you can see right over there is our temperature control, and you see 8 different ports on there, or 8 different little sections, and that's one for each one of these, so we can control them individually. We've done our testing with it when we first set up a brand new tank to make sure that they're hitting the temperatures right, because some of them actually have, I think this one has a temperature probe right on it, so we can kind of see, make sure that they're matching up with one another. But I'd like to say they're within a temperature, or one degree really, of what they should be. We haven't had any problems with not hitting our temperatures properly here, so I think that that's pretty good. After the fermentation process is over, you're going to see little to no bubbling in the buckets, because the yeast have eaten all the sugars that they have available to them. But while they have done that, they're still hanging around in suspension inside of the beer at this point, since it's fermented. And we don't want to take all of that yeast with us. So what we do is bring the temperature down to about 34 degrees. This is called cold crashing. It'll become too cold of an environment for the yeast to just hang around in suspension. So they'll all float to the bottom and hang out in this cone region in the fermenter. We can then harvest the yeast out, and we can reuse it again. Usually about 10 to 12 times we can reuse a strain of yeast before they just get unresponsive or really lazy, and they just don't work well. After we have harvested our yeast and we have brought our temperature down, we'll then transfer to one of the 2 tanks on the ends of the row. These are called bright tanks, and as that says right there. And at this point in time, we will then carbonate our beer. We have a carbonation stone that runs into the side of the tank that will slowly emit CO2 out in a regulated amount. We know how much we're putting in there, so we're not risking explosion. And it takes about a day to a day and a half to fully carbonate up a batch of beer that we will then hand keg. We hook up to the drain right here with a device that allows us to keg about 4 to 8 beers or 4 to 8 kegs at a time. And we can then put into our cooler to serve you here, or send out into distribution, where we are distributed through all of South Florida, the Treasure Coast, and Brevard and Volusia counties right now, and about 170 to 180 bars and restaurants. We don't can or bottle right now. We do plan on packaging by the beginning of 2014. We're looking at primarily canning. Cans have come a long way with beer. I know there's this stigma on them to some people, but cans are actually a lot better for the beer than a bottle is. They don't allow any light or air into them that can oxidize or decrease the age of the beer really rapidly. And being in South Florida, a lot of people like to go to the beach where bottles aren't allowed, and cans are a very good thing for us to cater to our local climate here. Anyone have any questions? Yes?
How do you come up with your different beers or flavors? What inspires you to create, other than the season?
Sometimes it might be something that you eat or drink, and you're like, I think that would be a good idea for a beer, and then you work with coming up with what malts to use, what hops to use to develop that. Adjunct ingredients, like we use honey, spices. We have barrels that we use for aging some of our beers in to develop the flavor profile that we're looking for. We recently did a beer in a cask, a little 9-gallon batch of our Bridgeport Scotch Ale that we put cherries, orange peel, and bourbon-soaked oak in to create sort of like a old-fashioned, if you will, with beer, and get some of those flavor characteristics that you would from that cocktail. Not just the bartenders are trying to make cocktails with beer, us brewers are trying to make beers that are a lot like cocktails out there, especially those traditional ones like an old-fashioned. I know breweries that have made beers that are like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a key lime pie. It's really, you can do whatever your imagination comes up with, and it's then a matter of trying. We have a little system that you walked by when you came in here that is our pilot system, allows us to make 10-gallon batches at a time, so we're not making 500 at a time. We can try it out there. If it works, then we can scale it up and make it on our big system. But it's a really fun business because you can really make a beer that tastes like whatever you want.
What's your favorite?
That we brew. Our I have had many beers in my life. I think Category 5 IPA, we don't have it on tap right now. It's our big double IPA, very, very insanely hopped, bitter. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love big hoppy beers, and it's 8.5% ABV, and super citrusy it's like grapefruit, pine resin, and it just, that bitterness lingers on my tongue for like minutes after I'm done drinking it. That's one of my favorites. But if I had to pick one that's on tap right now, I really enjoy our Southern Saison. It's a Belgian styled beer, and our UXO that we just came out with, it's an American strong ale. It's very hoppy as well, as having a good malt backbone to it. But we'll try some beers here in a little bit that you can judge for yourself. You guys, I know, have had some beers already.
I got a question.
Sure.
Aside from trying to find the place and parking, what was your biggest obstacle starting out? You didn't really know where you are, like who you are and what you do, because now that I'm here, I'm noticing like TGI Fridays, all these other places have you be on draft.
Getting people to know who we are isn't that huge of a deal. Social media is great for things like that nowadays because we built up a following before we were even open, just through interactions with local beer fans and the local community in general on Twitter, Facebook, and places like that. Our big obstacles were being in an environment that is not knowledgeable on breweries. South Florida is still very new to the whole craft beer game, and while Boynton was very happy to have us and our tax dollars here, they've never really opened up a brewery like us. They had a hops at one point, but that's just a brew pub. Having a big production brewery like us is completely different, and trying to make sure they're following the rules to a T and we're following the rules to a T was a bit of a hassle, and it took a lot of time, to where if we were maybe in Boulder, Colorado, it wouldn't have taken as long of a time to do. But yeah, that was probably the biggest thing, was just dealing with the city and the state and making sure that everything's done properly when they are kind of, we don't know ourselves. Like, we're learning together, holding each other's hands.
Yep. How do you know when the beer's done? You go up, you just take a little cup, sample it?
We also will take a gravity reading, much like any other liquor that's done. Gravity reading is you use a hydrometer and you dip it into a sample. We'll use a test valve for the liquid, and you are taking the gravity of how dense it is compared to pure ethanol. Compared to the first time you take it. Right after we put it into the tank, we'll take a gravity reading, and then we'll take one maybe every few days to see how much further down, because it will become less dense as the yeast eats those sugars. So we'll eventually get down to the point to where the target gravity for final gravity, and once we hit that, then we know that we're good and we're ready to then move it over into the bright tank to keg up.
You mentioned the importance of social media. Do you have a hashtag for?
We actually have. We're on Twitter at Due South Brewing. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Due South Brewing. We're on Instagram at Due South Brewing Co. Someone took Due South Brewing, and we had to add the co to the end of it. So if you want to tag us in anything, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, we have all of those outlets, and we're very active with them because that is really our only advertising that we do is through those networks.
Stemming from the earlier question, would you say that at least the local business climate and the business climate and tax structure will promote more breweries in South Florida opening, or do you think it'll inhibit it?
It might be somewhere in between. I actually read a stat today that the taxes for alcohol in Florida is the 11th highest in all of the country. So Florida's not that great with their taxes being promotive towards small businesses. So it's kind of rough on that standpoint. But craft beer is really on the rise here. Florida is one of the highest markets for beer consumption in all of the country. So it only makes sense that it's eventually making its way down here. It's slow and steady. The state and local governments are still a little hesitant on it. They just see kind of alcoholism as the problem, and they don't think that craft beer or even craft spirits, craft wine, whatever, because this state has a lot of craft distilleries as well, and they don't get enough credit that they should. They're working towards making this a better state for themselves, and I think that we're on the rise. We're not quite there yet. Like, one of the big things for us is we are one of only 2 states in the entire country that doesn't allow for 64-ounce growlers. Growlers are our to-go jugs that we fill with draft beer and allow people to take home and consume at home and bring back and get refilled. It's something that almost all craft breweries do, but our state doesn't allow the standard 64-ounce half-gallon containers, and it's an old blue law that has been in effect for years and years, that has been brought about by Big Boy and Brewing and their distribution networks. And we have a guild ourselves, the Florida Brewers Guild, and we are working towards getting a law passed to allow us to pour 64-ounce growlers, because we bring in a lot of tourism breweries, and you have people from out of state that are coming, and they have their own growlers that they're bringing with them, and if they're from a state where 64 ounces, which is almost all of them, we can't fill it. We got to tell them, we're sorry, you have to go with a 32-ounce or a 1-gallon. That's the strange thing. Beer can't be put into a container that is 33 ounces to 127 ounces. Anything above or below that limit, absolutely okay. You can get 2 32-ounce growlers, or you can get one 1-gallon growler. Doesn't make sense. We know, and we're trying to convince our government that it doesn't make sense. And we have some supporters, but we have some that are against us just because they are supporters of our opponents in this. And it's a little bit of a rough track, but we are getting a lot of support from the local community, a lot of the beer drinkers, a lot of just the fans of small businesses. And we're hoping this coming session with the Congress in Florida, we can eventually get that passed.
With the process for making beer and whiskey being real similar, do you have a particular cocktail that you actually make with whiskey and beer that you're fond of, that you drink, or?
I've never played with it too much. I have a whole book of recipes that I can get you guys. We have a whole book of recipes that I can get you guys, but me personally, I don't, off the top of my head, have too much experience with it, but I want to learn more, so. But this,
The beer in the shop.
beer in a shot, more shots.
What's your favorite way to drink Jameson? I'm just curious.
On the rocks.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, on the rocks. So the whole process is almost identical.
Minus hops.
Yeah, yeah, pretty interesting.
So you take a peek inside the beer cooler and stuff like that? Or?
You want to look in the cooler? Yeah, sure.
For like the shortest draft lines of any bar ever?
We're not the shortest. I've seen some pretty short ones, but what's up? Because we have a small cooler that tends to, if you keep the door open for even a minute, it gets really warm in there. I want to make sure everyone's here real quick, so we don't leave the door open for too long. All right. Go ahead and, if you want to walk in, you can walk in. Otherwise, I want to close this as soon as possible.
Just stay here.
It's-
Right?
Very much so. Okay.
What are you calling this one?
Okay. Let's all get in so that I can close the door because this thing gets warm really quickly. This is our beer cooler. This is where we keep all of our kegs, and also these big vessels that you see along this side of the wall are called serving tanks. They're kind of giant kegs. We fill them up with some of our bigger products, so the ones that we go through a lot of, so that we don't have to constantly be coming back here and changing kegs on them. They hold about 260 gallons in them. And we'll refill. We always have one outside so that we can get it back into rotation, and we'll fill it up. Usually our caramel cream ale is our top selling beer, so we'll rotate that one out every 2 weeks. That we'll go through one of these with our caramel cream ale. But we also keep our sodas, our waters, all of our hops back here too, because hops should stay refrigerated. And we try to keep it at about 38 degrees in here. And it's very nice coming in from out there.
Oh yeah.
And we have some short lines, we have some long lines. Of course, these serving tanks are a little bit of a longer line. We're actually going to be getting a new cooler soon and be setting up shorter lines on the serving tanks, and hopefully increase from, I think we're at 16 taps right now to getting around 24. So we'll be able to carry more of our own beers, and also we want to carry more of other Florida beers as well. We try to always have at least one guest tap on from another Florida brewery in here, because we're all friends. We're all really cool with each other. There's over 2,500 breweries in this country, and all those craft breweries, we only make up 6% of the beer market. So we're not in any position to be competing with one another. We're competing with the big boys, with your Buds and your Millers, to try to get people to drink better beer, support local businesses. There's been a huge push for people to eat local. We think the same can be said about drinking local. Drink locally produced beers and support your community, support your local economy. And I don't know, that's just the way we like to think about things. All right, let's head back out. They wanted to see.
See how that goes. Our refrigeration's key. Like
Yeah.
Come on, anyone.
I don't.
We've got 2 cars blocking the entire parking lot in. So nobody can get in or out.
Megaphone's over there if you want to make an announcement.
Jump right here, give some closing thoughts, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Okay. I'll let him get that. So, I want to thank all of you for coming out and hanging out here with us. I think that it's really cool that you guys have started a Palm Beach County chapter of your guild, and it shows that you're really passionate about your trade and your skills, just as much as anyone else who loves their job. A lot of us here are big cocktail fans ourselves. We're not just beer geeks. We love going out and trying local cocktails and going to see a bartender who knows their trade and loves their trade. And I say keep up the good work, because you're doing some fantastic things, and we have room to grow together. Especially, like, you guys are making some interesting things with our stuff. That shandy is pretty damn good. So thank you. If you have any other questions, I'll be hanging around here for a little while, and I'll be happy to answer them. I'm first and foremost a beer geek, so I love talking about beer. And thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. No problem. So what do you guys think? I learned some good stuff. Entertained. If you guys want, we're going to take a quick 10-minute break. Feel free to use the bathroom. It's back there. Take some pictures. Don't forget the hashtag USBG Palm Beach and Due South Brewing.
It's a wine bar and just bloody white out.
All right, so what do you guys think of the second cocktail so far?
I like this one better than the other.
Yeah. Like the first one. Do you understand the process of the first one and why we chose the first one first, the second one? Exactly. We kind of keep it smooth and easy and inviting to open up your palate for the first one. The second one, like, here's some flavor. Let's have some fun. Yeah. There's some good reaction with this one. This is good. And again, all the cocktails for you guys are all right here, so you can replicate it at your bar. Not everyone's lucky to have Due South beer, but I think Chris said you actually have it at your place, right?
We have the caramel cream ale.
Yes. So he's already inside. I mean, I'm really happy. Charles, the guy that's about to go on, he's the one that came up with the cocktails.
They're really good.
Yeah, what we do with the events, we always utilize the sponsors. We show you different ways. Oh, I see. Got a great cocktails with them. I don't know if you guys know Eddie. Eddie's from Wild 95.5, the local radio station. Great guy. And a very competitive cornhole person. And competitive in everything, actually. And most of you guys know, for all these events, we've raffled off different ways to win memberships. This one's going to be a little different. So start planning now. Like Chris said, you got to earn it. We're going to have a little cornhole tournament after this. If you guys notice, there's cornhole after this. The winning team will have their memberships paid for from Due South for the whole year. So start thinking who you want to partner up with right now. As soon as we're done with this, we're going to have a cornhole tournament. And then afterwards, we're going to raffle off some t-shirts and some stuff from Due South, which I think all you guys got your raffle tickets when you signed in, right? Yeah. Perfect.
I love this. This reminds me so much of
Now, have you guys, anyone else ever played with beer cocktails before? Danny, what have you done?
I mean, most recently, when I was in the beer garden, we actually highlighted a cocktail. It was jalapeno and tequila, grapefruit shrub, fresh lemon, and we topped it off with IPA.
I'll tell you this, one thing I'm looking
Oh wait, what if they show me take a red right shot of
Oh, that's perfect.
Hello.
Actually, Charles. So with that, Charles Stedman, everybody.
Welcome. All right, so we've been enjoying some, a different venue. We're in a great exposed warehouse. We're getting some literally the ground floor kind of, experience in terms of, how the beer is made and the process and the whether it's the vats or the fact that they do gravity feed using a forklift, and all that. But amazing stuff. But for me, it's like Mike did a great job of giving us a tour and taking us through what craft beer is, and the fact that with Florida being a big draft beer drinking states, the fact that they're really coming out with some great fun products and they're selling. So for me, it's like we had our little welcoming cocktail, and that was our autumn shandy, and the classic shandy is beer and lemonade. You sip it on the summertime and welcome to South Florida. And God knows it's nice and cool in here, but but it's one of those things where it's that classic, kind of like summer cocktail using beer, because it has that extra component to it and what. But with the one that we did, with the shandy, we have our sheets for us, but it had the a little whip vodka. We're using the Due South caramel cream, which has a nice, it's a cream ale, so it has a little bit of flavor to it, but it doesn't have that bitterness that you usually get with these like IPAs. And I know, Mike had said his favorite was that Category 5 IPA, big hoppy, bitter this. This is on the other end of the flavor profile. This is a full rounded flavor ale, So we had the whips adding to the cream. We had the caramel cream ale, and then, a great, just, some lemonade. Just it's summertime. I mean, I sell lemonade for 25 cents in the corner, you know? I mean, now it's probably like $1, I don't know. And then doing like a clove sugar rim. So we call it the autumn shandy because it brings those like, you know, autumn kind of flavors, you know, to it, the clove, you know, and the richness of it, you know, and that kind of fuller beer, but not the bitterness aspect of it. But still, I mean, for the first drink that we had, the first one I thought was kind of light and refreshing, but there's a little complexity to it. Now, I mean, for the bartenders and, you know, for the, you know, whether, you know, reps and you're selling accounts or what, you know, you have a draft beer and you have beer drinkers and you want them to switch over to maybe doing a cocktail without having to kind of fully commit. Or you have cocktail drinkers that you want to kind of switch over to like a beer you don't fully commit, so why not meet in the middle and have a great beer cocktail? Now, the most recent one, you know, we had was a twist on a michelada, which is a very kind of south of the border, on the ice beer cocktail. I mean, do you guys enjoy that one? Or, you know, light, refreshing. You know, we call that the Grand Summer Spice, little Grand Marnier, little fresh lime juice. We're using the Due South Honey Vanilla Wheat. So the wheat beers, if you know people heard like Blue Moon or the Widmer Hefeweizen or this, so it's got a nice little structure to it, but they call that an English breakfast beer. So it's that light, toasty. You have it in the morning, low alcohol content, so you can have a lot of it. We're in a little Grand Marnier, you know, and a little citrus, you know, and like I said, for a lot of these beer cocktails, I mean, your tongue tastes in different ways. You know, the sweet and the bitter and this and this. So, you know, with both of these, it's like, you know, you're really engaging the full palate, you know, of your tongue. And that's, you know, what sells a drink, because you can say there's people that only like sour cocktails. There's people that like sugary sweet cocktails. You know, there's people that like drinks that don't taste like booze. There's people that like drinks that are straight booze. You know, so if you engage the entire palate, it's a real great cocktail that you can actually sell to the full spectrum of the people that come to your bar, or the people that you're selling at bars, or what it may be. So with beer cocktails, like I said, now it's a really growing trend. I mean, everybody has a little article I kind of printed out. And with this, you know, I was saying, like, you know, while using these beers as, you know, like a vessel to kind of translate what the cocktail idea is. Mike had mentioned that, you know, they were doing a twist on like an old-fashioned beer, you know, where they had like the cherry and the this and that and what, and taking the beer to embody a cocktail, you know, experience of having a classic old-fashioned. Now, you know, the same thing too, is you can take a beer tied into being, you know, it being a cocktail. You know, whether it's over ice like the last one, whether it's, you know, by itself before, but you're looking for that complexity and the layering of the flavor profiles for it all. And sometimes, as fun as it is, it's even simpler. So for the article I kind of printed out, I mean, it really kind of gets divvied up into like in 4 major categories when it does come to beer cocktails. So, you know, the first one being the variation of like the beer margarita. You know, so it's the beer, it's the lime, there's a sugar component, there's a salt component. I mean, kind of a little bit like, you know, the Michelada style one, you know, but, you know, not quite as complex. You know, the second, you know, going into like the shandy style, which we tried for the very first one, you know, where it's like something simple, beer, lemonade. How can that, you know, make that more complex? What goes well with lemon? What kind of lemonades have you seen out there? Cherry or rosemary or this? What kind of beers have you seen out there? Do you use something a little more complexity and with a bigger kind of you know, body to it, like an ale, amber ale, golden ale, or do you do something light and easy like a lager? You know, interesting enough, it's, you know, one of those things where, you know, Guinness as a stout and dark and rich and this goes actually really well with lemon. I mean, next time you're out there, try it. I mean, something where it's like, you know, play around with it and have some good times, because at the end of the day, when you find something that, I mean, I think you all sat down and you're thinking, you know, beer cocktails, like, are these really good? I mean, could you have more than one? I'm thinking most of you could have more than one, so it's something that adds to your arsenal of things as bartenders, as, you know, reps, as brand managers, and what, something that you can sell, you know? So we talk about like beer, you know, kind of margarita style cocktails. We talk about shandies. Moving on to the micheladas, which was the drink that we just had right now. And now that's really interesting for me because, you know, it had that spice component, which less is more. For the first cocktail, you know, or beer cocktail we had, it was a full clove, you know, sugar spice rim. And, you know, that's something where it added the texture to the the beer cocktail, you know, and it gave a great little kind of autumn essence to it. Now the spice, I mean, spice is nice, but sometimes, less is more. And, it's one of those things where smoke and spice are great additions to add to a drink, but in less is more kind of mentality to it. So, with the Michelada, you have the spice component, you have a citrus component, the fresh lime that's in here. You have a sweet component, the Grand Marnier, which works well with the lime, so it adds that kind of citrus component and builds on it. And then with the Due South, we're actually using their honey vanilla wheat, going back to like the Blue Moon and this. So there's a nice structure to it that builds with it. Now the last style they call the crafty creations. Now these are the ones you pull out the fun stuff from the back bar, whether it's a Saint Germain or whether it's a double IPA or something like unique and different. And the thing it goes back to hitting all different parts of the tongue. If you have something that's really, really bitter and hoppy, like Mike said, you like his category of 5, how do you balance that out? If it's hoppy and bitter, sweet or salty, he usually kind of works out. Or if it's something where you're using a beer that's kind of got a full round flavor to it, you want to kind of bring out the flavor to it, so then you access the different parts of the tongue where it's like it's a full round flavor. You hit the sweet, you hit the salty, you hit the bitter. And it's things where you can tie that into doing texture, on a rim, which that is spicy and salty, yummy. Or you do something built into the drink, whether it's a citrus component, whether it's a liquor component, and then on. So I mean, for me with the beer cocktails, and where I find my passion in this all is the fact that you can take a vessel of a beer, dress it up, give it, if it's rounded out, give it that, sweet, give that salty, give that bitter, give it that texture and all that. Throw it over ice. The first one wasn't over ice, and and all adds like the mouthfeel, and that's where like the magic really kind of happens, where you have drinks that you can have more than one of. Because at the end of the day, you really want to create cocktails that you can have more than one of, because I mean it's South Florida, and whether it's the vodka soda, the rum and coke, the gin and tonic, or the whiskey and this, I mean you really want to kind of educate your guests, and then turn them on to fun new things, and then sell the products that the reps or the brand ambassadors or the managers that do come in and give you the exposure to. And like I said, at the end of the day, if you take one thing, is here's something else for the arsenal. You can make the greatest martini. You can pour the stiffest shot of Jameson, or you can do something fun with like I said, pour the best draft beer of your life. But now you can make a beer cocktail, and that's where it's at. Any questions or anything, or who's ready for another one? No, what's up? Yes, Angelica.
Is there like
You ready for another?
wives' tale that you can't mix beer and liquor because it makes you sick? I mean, is there more? You get more drunk? Is there any like?
With that one, I think it's more in volume. I mean, if no offense, like I'm more of a straight liquor spirit guy, or beer by itself, or this, that, and I play around the cocktails, but it's more the volume. You have a 24 cans of beer, you're feeling pretty good. You have a bottle of this, that, you're feeling pretty good. No, mix and match is fine. You usually say with that, it's more finding the balance. Now, what I think actually with cocktails, where people say, okay, well, can you mix or this is more on the sugar component aspect of it. You have a lot of sugary drinks, what happens? You wake up the next morning, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not only dehydrated, I'm dealing with a sugar rush, and this and that. Each person's different though. But, I mean, God knows, when I was young, I like Kool-Aid. So, yeah. So the Grand Summer Spice is based on a classic Michelada. It's like it's like one of those things. It's like you say you're having like a cosmopolitan. With the vodka and the lime and the cranberry and the triple sec. Well, it's a variation. Oh, we'll use a flavored vodka. We'll use a higher end triple sec. We'll maybe get rid of the lime and do lemon or orange, and forget the cranberry. We'll do passion fruit or this. So it's just a twist on a classic recipe. And it works. I mean, it's one of those drinks where, for being south of the border, the heat actually helps cool your body down and sweat. So it's one of those things where that cools your body down. Hydrating, it's over ice. And then adding the liquor component, just make sure it's you're feeling good. So, but no, it's a classic cocktail recipe, a beer cocktail recipe. So this is kind of like a twist or an interpretation of it. And the same thing where you have these components, and like I said, you have these recipes in front of you. So it's one of those things where, and I'm looking, it's like, okay, you have the autumn shandy, right? And like I'm using whipped vodka and lemonade. I mean, that kind of sounds good, you know. What else could you use with, you know, instead of say using with vodka, what works with lemonade? Raspberry or cherry, or I mean, you know, you can kind of get creative with that. You're using this caramel cream. What works with caramel? Chocolate. I mean, chocolate and actually lemon, say they work out well. You know, so you could do something with chocolate, something with lemon, something with the caramel still, or what. I mean, so it kind of gives you a base, and like you know, if we went to the first meeting that we had this really big focus on the ratios of cocktails: the strong, the sweet, the sour, and the weak. And you know, the same way you have these ratios of drinks that you're using here now, you can plug and play with them. I mean, these ratios work. There's a reason, you know, they talk about these pre-prohibition cocktails. They work for a reason, you know, whether it's a ratio of like the whiskey and the vermouth and the bitters for a Manhattan, whether it's the ratio of, we talk about like a Cosmopolitan or a margarita. The same thing with like a Michelada style beer cocktail. The ratios work. It's up to you to get your own interpretation of it, and then play with the flavors. You know, I mean, if you like to cook, I mean, certain flavors work well with each other, you know? I mean, so for me, it's like one of those things, I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's almost like that cooking experience of, you know, cherry and lemon. Cherry lemonade works well. I got that slushy, I think, from 7-Eleven, you know, like the last week. You know, but little things like that, you know, work well together. Chocolate and strawberries, chocolate and mint. You know, mint and strawberry, mint and cherry. You know, so it's all these things where it's easy for you, where you look in the back bar and you're sitting there, and in this day and age of like all the multiple flavors that you have available, and you know, you're seeing more of that fresh component walk into a bar. These are the aspects that you can actually bring into the cocktail experience. And then on top of all that, wait a second, you got beer too? You know, I mean, come on, I mean, for South Florida, I don't get drunk, I don't know what this is. God knows it's hot outside, we're having a good time, let's have some beer cocktails. You know, I mean, take it to the next level, and then sell the people, you know, it gives you, like I said, another tool to sell people on something unique and different. If you can sell people on unique and different, what does that mean for you in terms of like putting money in your pocket? Is you increase the frequency of the people that come to your bar. You know, if you're there making cocktails and you're having a good time and you're creating relationships and you're, you know, shaking up drinks and you're smiling, having a good time to the service industry, welcome, enjoy this, and you're providing something that nobody else is doing at the area. I mean, who's doing beer cocktails on here? Not many people, you know? That increases the frequency, which means if they're coming in that extra day a week, cha-ching, you know? I mean, so it's good for everybody. And it's also one of those things where, like I said, just kind of letting them have a better experience and try different things. You know? Cool beans. Any other questions? Are we ready for some more? Come on, man. You know? All right, well, thank you very much. I mean, say thank you guys for coming out. I mean, what a great, like, unique little venue here, you know? I mean, you can't beat this. I mean, to have everything exposed and to kind of get this great tour, which not a lot of people get. I think the crucial time getting into the beer cooler. I'm ready to go back in there again, you know, but say thank you so much. And, you know, if you have any questions, like, you know, seek me out afterwards and what. Definitely, I mean, like I said, take these home. I mean, take a look at them, see, you know, with the recipes and a lot of these, and if you look at the article, like, these are actually bars that are, you know, doing these beer cocktails and doing some variations on them, and they work. Now, we have the ratios you can play with, but, you know, at the end of the day, if it's an added asset, an added tool for you to sell and increase that frequency, it's just good for everybody. So thanks again. Awesome. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. How did you enjoy tonight's event?
It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
What did you like most about it?
The camaraderie, the cornhole, and the free drinks.
So why did you become a USBG member?
It's long overdue. You know, it's about time that we have an organization for the bartenders locally here in the area. So, you know, as soon as I heard about it, I knew it was something that I wanted to be a part of.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this. In the future, what would you like to see the USBG accomplished here in Palm Beach?
I'd like to see us grow. I'd like to see our numbers increase. I would like us to do good works in the community other than just, you know, serving the customers as we do so well. I would like to see us involved in some charity events here and there. And continue to do what we do and invite the public out to some of our events so they can see that they're served by the best in Palm Beach.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good to go. Hey guys, it's Danny Siegel coming to you from Boynton Beach, Florida at the Due South Brewery. Today we're discussing a few different questions that we have. One, why did I join the USBG? Well, to be honest, I joined the USBG to help further my craft, both in terms of flair and mixology. I really think that associating with other professionals in this industry will really help me evolve my craft into something new and something bigger. Good for that question. What went on at the event today?
What do you expect out of it? And what do you think of it overall?
I think I kind of answered that in the first one, so we'll just go with the event question. We can borrow you for a minute?
Do it while you're playing cornhole.
Good on audio? I'm gonna wait for that round. How you doing, guys? Danny Siegel here with FlairBar.com, and today I'm here with Brian Spears, and we're gonna talk about what went on today at the Due South Brewery at the West Palm USBG event. Brian, tell me what you thought about today's event at the Due South Brewery.
Well, today's event was amazing. I actually learned a lot about the beer brewery and how it all works, and I learned about a lot with the mixology and how to add beer into it. And I really enjoyed that because I've actually been looking for that for a while.
Good to go. We'll get the next question on the next round. Now, a follow-up question to what we were talking about before. Why did you originally join the USBG chapter in West Palm Beach, and what are you expecting out of it?
Well, I joined the USBG to enhance my knowledge as a bartender and to meet other fellow bartenders that were interested in the same ideas that I was, to build their business and build themselves to become better.
Well, that's very interesting. And how do you think today's event served, considering that response?
Well, it actually it served very well for my purpose because it actually helped me learn a little bit more and learn a little bit more about what I can enhance myself as. And I met a lot of great people here that would really help me out in the future.
Thank you very much, Brian, and best of luck in today's cornhole tournament.
Beer pong tomorrow night.
Have a good FlairBar.com. Thank you very much. Today I'm here with Dan from the Pernod Ricard family, and we're discussing what he thought of today's event here at the Due South Brewery in Boynton Beach, Florida. And Dan, tell me what you thought.
I think it's a great collaboration of everybody coming together. USBG, as I've dealt with them for years and years, gets everybody on the same page. Everybody's making better cocktails, regardless of the brands. Hopefully mine, but it doesn't really matter. Gets everybody making better cocktails in general. And it's just a good resource for people to get together, talk to each other, come up with new ideas, new trends, what's working, what's not, what's kind of in, what's kind of out. And however I can help get everybody more educated about different whiskeys, different vodkas, different gins and tequilas, helps everybody out in the long run.
Dan, we couldn't agree more. And moving on from there. Hey, how you doing? USB West Palm Beach. This is Danny Siegel coming to you live with Chris. We're at the Due South Brewery at the 3rd USBG West Palm Beach event. And Chris, I'd like to ask you, tell me what you thought about today's event. Hold that thought. It's all good.
Sorry about that. No, it was really good. Beer cocktails are a whole new thing. Not too many people know too much about them. They taste great, and they come in so many different flavors. You had the sweet of the shandy, and then the really spicy of the autumn, whatever, of the other one. I forgot what it was called. It was really the Michelado or whatever. But it seems like there's a lot of depth that you can go into that. It opens up for creation, and it gives you more options behind the bar when you have a customer who's maybe a little iffy about what he wants to drink. He likes beer, he likes liquor, but he doesn't know what to do. Offer him one of those. Every meeting we learn something different, and it's really great. It really opens your mind, and you meet some great people out here.
Well, we couldn't agree more, Chris, and that actually brings us to the next question that we wanted to ask you. Why did you join the USBG, and what do you expect to get from joining the USBG?
Well, I'm starting off right now. I'm trying to look at a job. I'm in school. I figured what's the best way to make some extra money for college and stuff, bartending, bar backing, You start from the bottom and you learn. So this seems like a really good way to socialize, meet new people who work in different places and in different kind of bars. You got dive bars, you got clubs, you got breweries. It really opens you up, and you can say, hey, if you ever need somebody to help, I'm right here. A lot of people, that's how you get jobs. You make friends, you meet people. Right now I work in Clematis. I'm a bouncer right now, but I'd rather be a bartender. So this is really like a stepping stone to doing it.
Well, and that brings us to our next question, which is, has associating with this group of people really helped you appreciate the craft of bartending and the craft of developing cocktails?
100%. Usually when you go into a bar, you say, okay, these are like recipes that people have known for forever, and none of it is really like creative or unique. But once you start coming in, you see, actually these people are making this from scratch or taking recipes and breaking them down and putting them back together. And it's really, every cocktail has its own twist, and depending on the bartender, everything's going to be unique.
Thank you very much, Chris. Have a great time tonight. Cheers.
Thank you very much.